Watch me. I'll do the fingering.
Hey, yo, what the
Hey y'all, I'm Alma, and welcome to my channel, Okay Alma. This is my Maltipoo, Bingsu, and we are both excited to have you here. FYI, I'm going to yap roughly 2 minutes of my lore, so if you want to skip directly to the Alien review, I have timestamped it below for your convenience. To give a quick prologue, I recently, within the last 5 years, moved from Oklahoma to attend a prestigious top 10 film school in a state that definitely ended up being one of the most states of all time. I spent my savings to move all my things across the country and rent a dorm room that I had for the total of 1 whole normal semester, and then
the funniest thing happened.
And then when I graduated, everything turned out great.
Was it worth it? I don't know. I don't even know if I ever belonged there. I love them, but my cohort was too cool for school.
They were Disney or Nickelodeon stars, kids of actors, directors, or already accomplished filmmakers. They would want to discuss Italian neorealism or French New Wave.
I think my favorite movie is probably The Shining.
Okay,
Nice.
500 Days of Summer, which
That's
is
a good
cheesy,
pick,
but
too.
it's very good.
Very good. Mine's
I like
definitely
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, easily my favorite.
I don't think I've heard of that one. That's what's it? What was it called?
Oh, I thought you were f***ing with me.
I never heard of that one.
Oh my god, Will.
I love the tastemakers like Dr. Caligari, Battleship Potemkin, but I desperately wanted to discuss Free Guy.
Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye.
Alma and I. Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the fraudulent one.
But now, I have you, and I really appreciate you having a conversation with me.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
I just wanted to add a disclaimer that I am not a voice of authority on taste, and everyone is allowed to disagree with anything I say.
Okie dokie.
Anyways, Alien Romulus, let's talk about it. And as with all of my videos, warning that there will be spoilers ahead. I didn't even know this movie was coming out until I saw it in a trailer before Deadpool and Wolverine. I kind of fell out of love with the Alien franchise with Prometheus, so I was an ostrich in the sand about this IP. I was also super bummed about Neil Blomkamp's Alien movie not being made. That was the one where they retconned 3 and 4, and Newt was the main character, and Ripley would be her mother/mentor figure. This felt like a decision that was driven entirely by Ridley Scott's ego to claim back ownership of the franchise only to produce the 2 most mid to Ohio level flicks that the human brain can conjure. I'm sure you can tell by now that I wake up extra early so that I have more hours in the day to be a Prometheus hater. I might do a deep dive on those later, but if you like those movies, it does not change my opinion of you one bit. But if you hate them too, we are vibin'. When I saw the trailer, I know I'm the target demographic, but what happened to aspirational older people in movies? Lately, it felt like Hollywood was desperate to say, this movie is for you, young people. I think they're great actors, I just wasn't expecting a Scream or Bodies, Bodies, Bodies or The Maze Runner in Space, which it kind of ended up being. On first impressions, it was a miss for me, with the exception of Andy, but more on that later. Sitting in the theater during the opening started to give me a bad feeling when they started to recover the alien from the first movie, which seemed like a lazy way to tie it in. My sour mood quickly changed as we were introduced to Rain and Andy. I felt their bond, I understood Rain's struggle, and especially Andy for being a synthetic. He was charming. He's like a little malfunctioning robot, but he has so much personality with the dad jokes and really had like a Baymax energy. Also, the actor had this facial expression that became a visual cue for his disability, and I loved that face. I also love the idea that young people were used as labor on a mining slave planet, and how you had to work to earn cryofuel to travel off-world. But after thinking about it, wasn't that the entire point of the synthetics program. I believe it is even mentioned in the film that civilizations are built on the backbones of worker bots like Andy, and they are many generations of bots past that, but maybe I am overthinking it. Then we got introduced to the other people, whom I quickly forgot their names or relationships to one another. I had to Wikipedia to even record this because I can only remember them as pregnant pilot, leader guy, and jerk, who I could barely understand at times. I don't remember having this hard of a time understanding who each crew member was in any of the other Alien movies, including the bad ones, even if they were scum. I didn't even know that some of them were related, or that Rain used to date leader guy, who is Tyler. Tyler had a plan to steal cryofuel to liberate themselves to another planet. Great, perfect plot, except I couldn't understand why Weyland-Yutani was not trying to recover any of it. There was a why, but no ticking clock outside of the ambiguous time frame of this is our only chance to bypass the system. I think this would have worked better if the station just went dark and Tyler and crew wanted to harvest the cryofuel before Weyland-Yutani sent operatives to reclaim the station. The addition of this recovery team, which we will codename Team Super Friends, would have made the plot more coherent and patch up holes in character behaviors and conveniences, which would have added a driving action and tension throughout the film. I'm going to reference Super Friends throughout this video, so remember them and put a pin in it. Now, I went to see this movie with my friends Pallet and Rowena, Rowan for short. Witchy Mommy Rowan is the gamer of our group, and when the crew got on the Romulus station is when Rowan kept muttering "dead space" over and over. This happened like 5 times all throughout the movie, and I don't get it, but maybe you do. If you can comment below on similarities, I would like to know. I read afterwards it was inspired by the game Alien Isolation, which I did play and can definitely see that here. So, like when they were creeping through the station, everything was all in that cassette retro sci-fi style of the 80s that reminded me of Sevastopol Station. Like, it was tense, scary, and heart-pounding. The dramatic tension was honestly the highest in the entire film for me here. The sense of dread permeated throughout the act with the creepy scene where they put that reprogramming module in Andy, or the slow thaw of the facehuggers and Rain getting grabbed by what, at the time, looked like a bisected working Joe. I loved every bit of it. 10 out of freaking 10, chef's kiss. Also, if we go back for a second, this is my absolute favorite shot in the entire film. And then the pilot gets struggle cuddled, and this is where the movie goes off the rails. Like Rogue One in reverse, where all the good stuff is in the front instead of the back. What I thought was a working Joe is revealed to be this. I mean, I don't know where we are with this technology, but surely it's progressed to a somewhat acceptable medium compared to this. The robot Rook then says that the pilot has a 60% chance of being preggers with a stompy, and in a true living dead moment, the jerk screws everyone over. Because the plot has to happen, and tries to save the pilot and himself. Of course, the pilot predictably chest bursts, and all the while, in her death spasm, perfectly orbits the ship around the station, and conveniently crashes into the hangar with minimal damage to the ship. A real Fast and the Furious moment. The jerk here almost doomed everyone. I would presume at the very least some of this crew were his good friends, if not family. I think the panic attack and what followed would have been more warranted if there was another plot device like, here is an alternative scenario. Team Super Friends were docking. Oh no, we need to make a quick decision. Are we going to take the 40% chance of the pilot being okay and take her with us, or are we going to leave her on the station to be potentially killed by Captain McShootyface?
No witnesses?
Tyler and Jerk disagrees. We have no time. Jerk makes the executive decision. Kay was getting air outside while Pilot jumps into the ship and crashes into a reactor and blows up. Super Friends land inside the hangar. We know our main characters need to steal their ship for any hope of leaving the station. The stakes have risen. Back to the actual movie. To recap, the Jerk tries to save the pilot and locks out Tyler, Rain, and Andy, and on the ship, the pilot pops out an alien and crashes into the hangar. The movie remembers that pregnant girl Kay is in this cast and she escapes into the station. Also, I wasn't keeping count before this point, but they do a close-up on her stomach an excessive amount of times. And this wasn't the first time they focused on it. It was the first time I noticed. We get it. Foreshadowing! She meets up with the jerk and he dies via acid, which is cool to see a pure acid death for the first time in the franchise, but the way the scene played out ended up being more of a shrug. Okay, I guess. Sort of death. We didn't care about him for multiple reasons, and it was kind of a goofy slip. Honestly, I was more relieved that we will have more screen time for others. I think this scene really pointed out how lame all the deaths were in this film, because I think this was the most graphic out of the total 3 that you can consider brutal. I would have liked to see more deaths here, and Team Super Friends could have contributed to that. Also, it could really establish the threat these xenomorphs are, even to seasoned soldiers. Also, that xenomorph that the pilot popped out grew up way too fast, like Mario plus Mushroom Fast, ignoring all rules set forth in the franchise thus far, including Alien 3 and 4, which should tell you something. Kay is locked in a room with Mario, and on the other side, Andy makes the logical choice to not open the door, because the alien was waiting for him to do so it could kill Rain and Tyler too. I get why Tyler would be mad because that's his sister. But to Rain, it should be a moral dilemma because Andy is right and also was protecting her, but no. Plot has to happen, and Rain needs to be mad at Andy now, so the audience can learn that his new prime directive is to serve the Weyland-Yutani Company. But nothing in his behavior outside of not doing his adorable face thing anymore and carrying himself like a Sigma warranted this scene. I said Baymax earlier, and I feel like we needed a similar scene here where the robot is undeniably unhinged, like Andy rescues Kay, Captain McShootyface shows up, Andy swears allegiance to him, and they use Kay as bait to capture a xenomorph or perform an experiment on her, all in front of Rain. Speaking of experiments. After this scene, we get subjected to this. I don't know if there is anybody who was excited for this, and it was dead quiet in my theater, so it was super embarrassing when I involuntarily yelped. This was when Pallet and Rowan were fully subjected to... That's right, f***ing Prometheus. I don't care if it has deep Judeo-Christian imagery or themes with references to Paradise Lost, creationism, and Joseph Campbell-esque mythos. We didn't need to do a tie-in. What was the point of making a big scene with the Nostromo recovery if we were just going to pull Covenant? Anyways, Andy takes the forbidden hoisin sauce, which I will call the goop because I don't remember its stupid name, and Rain and Tyler arms up with colonial marine weapons. It probably makes sense that they could pick up guns here, but for me, I thought it could have worked better with McShootyface, as we can have a natural way for Rain and Tyler to obtain these weapons after they die. I'm not gonna lie, the movie has gotten so bad at this point that even trying to recap Act 3 is a painful chore. So I am just gonna quickly go over some of my biggest notes. They should have just rescued Kay in the previous scene because the next scene after this, they get her back anyways because she's just chilling on a wall. Tyler gets unceremoniously and inconsequentially game overed. Rain considers injecting Kay with the goop to heal her, but chooses not to because the movie is scared to show any sort of gray morality, and then Kay injects herself anyways because the plot has to happen. And then Rain rescues Andy and restores him to best boy by taking out the reprogramming chip. But then we get an almost goofy zero-G scene of her one-tapping xenomorphs while using the recoil to avoid acid blood. Couple notes here, I don't ever remember the marine weapons being as blatantly effective, nor having aim assist, and I could only think about Fast and the Furious again. Next is the biggest miss in film history. Okay, that is hyperbole. Andy saves Rain by doing this badass jump kick and shooting a xenomorph down an elevator shaft where he, out of the blue, says, "Get away from her, you b***." If you wanted to do this, and I'm not saying you should, because it is still not a good idea, you should have made Alien Isolation where you play Ripley's daughter to at least make some sort of rhyme.
They rhyme. They rhyme. Poetries. They rhyme.
At least I heard some audible groans from the theater on this one. You may disagree with me, but I thought it would have been iconic if Andy instead told a dad joke while blasting away the xenomorph. After that, Kay, Andy, and Rain escape on the miraculously undamaged ship. But, oh no, Kay gives birth to a goop baby, which we will call Luigi because it grows up just as fast as Mario. It kills Kay, almost kills Andy, and then Rain launches Luigi out into space. Because of course we do. Rain does a Ripley rip-off send-off, and that's it. Kind of tying this up, I could have overlooked the Prometheus tie-in if everything felt like a natural progression of the plot, story, or characters. I think the movie desperately needed a deuteragonist, since it already felt like Maze Runner to me, and we had this scrappy young crew versus big bad corporation sub-theme. I think having a stand-in for Wayland Yutani, like Team Super Friends, would have worked so well in the plot. The xenomorphs are like a force of nature spawned from the acts of corporations that heartlessly claim human lives, which you could attribute to anything really, but outside of any deep reads, it's simply just exciting to have multiple different bad guys in one film. I know I missed some things, I know I didn't bring up Rook again, but because he literally didn't do anything, he was like a evil Jiminy Cricket in Andy's ear, and it was rather hilarious how incapable he was. You can just decide not to do his command and he is like, wait, no, please stop. I also didn't bring up the hundreds of other blatant references which I heard were as many as Deadpool and Wolverine in an alien movie. I really didn't enjoy this movie very much, but I'm making it sound worse than it actually is. It was an entertaining watch and certainly competent enough, but I won't be revisiting this one. I will still watch the sequel to this, but I will keep my expectations tempered. I don't even think anybody on the core team is responsible for my criticisms. It has the fingerprints of hundreds of studio notes chasing the Marvel model. Anyways, if you stayed until the end of this video, I really appreciate you for watching a review of a movie that came out a month ago. I intended it to be 2 weeks earlier, but I underestimated the amount of pre-production I had to do for this channel and how long the intro was going to be. Since I got things running, I hope to be quicker as I blaze through the backlog like twisters and get caught up so we can be current while sometimes reviewing older movies. But that's all for now. Buns out.
They say the ocean's rising like a give a shit. They say the whole world's ending, honey, it already did.